Let's go to other stories now. Limpopo Premier Stanley Mathabatha has conveyed his condolences to the families of the 24 people who were killed in two separate collisions in that province. 21 people, including school children, were killed in a collision involving 3 vehicles in Leeuwfontein outside Groblersdal. And in a separate accident, 3 women were killed in a collision between a car and a truck in Mankweng outside Polokwane. One of the women was heavily pregnant. We cross live now to SABC News reporter Mahlatse Phaladi. Mahlatse, a very good morning to you. Thanks indeed for your time. Condolences continue to pour in. Is there any change in terms of the latest figures regarding the casualties in that accident? We understand that there were people who were injured, and we know that the Premier of that province is amongst those who have sent their condolences to those who have lost their loved ones.
Yes, condolences indeed, Griselda, to the families. We've been here today since morning around 7 o'clock, whereby, of course, we saw some of the officials from the Department of Transport and Community Safety, and that's the MEC, Zilan, who was also here to come and talk to the families, and of course also visit the accident scene where this horrific accident happened. Just in terms of the numbers, Griselda, we also got an indication from the MEC herself that those numbers yesterday were not the real figures that we got from some of the officials from the department, and of course saying that the numbers is actually 16 people who were perished in that horrific accident. But of course, Griselda, as we're following the MEC around at the moment, this exact spot, we are in Mortem, where some of the families lost their loved ones in that tragic accident yesterday, and we also spoke to the Mahlatse family. Where we are at the moment is a second family. We visited the first family of Mahlatse, whereby we spoke to the mother who actually lost one of her child who was also in primary. You do remember, Griselda, as you rightly indicated in your intro, that some of these people who perished are the learners from the local dynamic primary school just right here in the Groblersdal. And of course, here we are at the second family. It is Mabena family who also lost one of their child who was also in primary. And I'm just gonna speak to the uncle of the family of the child who lost their life yesterday. This is Calvin Mabena. Thank you, Mr. Calvin. Surely, as the condolences firstly to the family, just take us through what are you feeling as the family having to lose one of your niece in that tragic accident.
All right, good day to the viewers. As Mabena's family, we are really shattered by this incident. It's not a familiar thing. What happened to those innocent souls? I wasn't expecting such a thing. That accident, when I got a call in the early mornings yesterday from my sister telling me that my niece is no more, I couldn't even do anything. I was just stuck, driving from Johannesburg to Limpopo, having to think about the person you lost that is an innocent child, a 7-year-old boy who hasn't achieved anything, So, yeah, it was a very bad experience.
Perhaps we see now the officials are here, the MEC for Transport, she's here, and also the MEC for Health is also here. Tell us, some of the things that you expect as a family going forward, especially from government.
Yeah, we have to tap in that. Actually, I wanted to highlight it. We are pleading with the taxi associations to, strengthen their rules in terms of these young drivers who are actually driving speed on these national roads. They should as well intervene day to day. Like in the old days, we will see our fathers used to drive taxis and they will respect their jobs. So young people now are driving around under the influence of alcohol. So I think it will be good for the taxi association to make sure that those drivers are in good, physical fit before they embark on the roads.
Talking about your taxi association, we also see one of the chairperson of a taxi association. He's also here. Tell us about the attitudes towards him. Is there anything in particular, that a message that you like to convey to them, as you are now alluding to the fact that it seems like there's a certain recklessness from taxi drivers?
Yeah, in particular, I will say that Taxi Association, they should come on board in terms of arranging or rearranging the structures of these scholars to be transported to schools. They should actually, it is our wish that they could take back our children to the old style of taking them to school with buses. I'm sure it was even much safer compared to these taxis, because having to know that that individual who was driving these kids yesterday was actually a friend who was handed over keys to be like, hey, take care. So that's negligence itself, you know. So we have to ask the chairperson of Taxi Association to actually put more effort on the road rules.
Perhaps tell us about your funeral arrangement. Have you started as a family to make arrangement? Are you still waiting maybe for autopsies? How is the funeral arrangement? How far are you in terms of that?
You know, this just happened yesterday. As a family, we're still shattered. I can tell you our minds are paused. Yes, there will be proceedings, but at this point in time, we haven't yet planned anything.
Thank you very much, Mr. Calvin Mabena. That's the uncle of one of the child who actually lost his life in this tragic accident yesterday. And of course, a lot of frustration coming from, the family member about, the recklessness and the driving of these taxi drivers. And, these are sentiments that have been echoed, Griselda, as we are moving, from one household to another. Yesterday, when we were talking to the local communities as well, also highlighting the fact that, there is a level of recklessness from taxi drivers. Griselda, at the moment, what I can tell you is that the MEC of Health is also here, Dr. Popira Matuba, and also the chairperson of Taxi Association here in the Elias Mutswaliji. He's also here. So we just want to try and get a comment from him as we wait for the proceedings to happen inside the house. Griselda, they are meeting with the family, giving that message of support and condolences to the family. Griselda.
Mahlatse, thank you very much indeed. SABC News reporter Mahlatse Phaladi talking to us about that very tragic accident that took place there. Certainly condolences to all those who lost their loved ones there. Since this morning, the Limpopo Premier Stanley Mathabatha conveying his condolences to the families of those 24 people who were killed in those two separate collisions that we told you about earlier. 24 people, including school children, were amongst those that were killed. That accident involved 3 vehicles. That was in Leeuwfontein, outside Groblersdal. There was a separate accident we earlier indicated. 3 women killed in that collision between a car and a truck, that in Mankweng, outside Polokwane. One of the women there said to be heavily pregnant. SABC News reporter Mahlatse Phaladi has been crossing to us live from where many of the condolences also are being sent by dignitaries, including some of the provincial heads in that particular province. Mahlatse?
Yes, Griselda, we are still here at the Mabena family, whereby we spoke to the uncle of one of the child who lost his life yesterday in this tragic accident. And of course, Griselda, we couldn't leave it there because, the uncle was making serious allegations about the reckless driving of this taxi driver. You do remember that, Griselda, 2 taxi drivers were involved in this tragic accident yesterday when they collided with a ready-mix truck. And of course, everyone, Griselda, as I said earlier, was blaming the Taxi Association. But Griselda, who is in a better position to answer for themselves than the association themselves here? I am joined by Mr. Sunny Boy, who also just want to talk to him about, some of these allegations made by this community. Mr. Sunny Boy, thank you very much for your time. Community members, the people who lost their loved ones in this accident have been blaming, the recklessness of your taxi drivers. Are you, as the Taxi Association, going to take accountability in this kind of accident?
Samatoma, let me thank you to have me as a spokesperson of Groblersdal Taxi Association. My name is Sunny Boy Ntudi Sane. I'm the spokesperson of Groblersdal Taxi Association. Firstly, let me start by saying we as a Groblersdal Taxi Association are saddened by this tragic accident. we were celebrating that we held a festive season which was accident-free. And when we were relaxing, thinking that everything is well, it's when we meet this accident. Usually, accidents happened during the night. We expect accidents to happen during the night or maybe in the weekends. So it's where we are patrolling and making sure that we look at each and every incident or each and every operation to check as to whether things are normal. But this one just caught us off guard. That happened early in the morning, where you expect that everybody has been resting and then it's fresh, has got a fresh mind to go to work. It's unfortunate that there might be blames, but the fact of the matter, even if we blame one another, there's this accident that has happened that needs to be addressed. We as Taxi Association, we do have means of addressing negligent in driving, swearing on passengers, overpricing. We do have the committee that addresses that. So it's unfortunate this accident, both drivers have lost their lives. So let everybody who has anything that, any information that is needed for the law enforcement, to give it to the law enforcement so that they could take or they could conclude this thing. I understand that there must be an inquest that is being opened to look into what has caused this. But as an association, we are accountable for anything that happens under our name. If we found that indeed there's negligence, but that will be found only by the law enforcement, then we'll respond to that. As of now, we don't know what happened because there are still investigations. But what we can say that we have met these types of accidents where we have got mass accidents, where we've got mass people, quite a number of people who are dying. We work hand in glove with the community and the police. Let us not put blames before we conclude. Let's just give chance for the burial of all the people who are involved. And then
Mr. Saniboy, just quickly, from the association's point of view, I see you are here, you've been here visiting the families. Is there any particular support that you're going to give in terms of funeral preparation towards these families?
Yes, I was coming to that. Let me not conclude and answer your question directly. As an association, whenever there's a member or a passenger who has died in our taxis, we do contribute an amount of 5,000 rand to the family, and then we also support in the transport to the gravesite. It means that we are now faced with 16 times 500 rand. I mean 5,000 rand on each family. That is what we use to contribute. And let me just say, we don't contribute only on our members or on our passengers. Even people who died using other means of transport. There was last people who died using a buggy to Skumbi. We did contribute. There was last in 2000. There was people from Chiro family who died using a truck. There were 32. We did contribute, and even this one we are going to contribute to the family.
Thank you very much. That is Mr. Saniboy, the chairperson of Groblersdal Taxi Association. Just giving the side of their story, saying that they are also waiting for some of the investigations to conclude before, they also take accountability for this particular accident that happened. And of course, with me, Griselda, I'm also with the MEC of Health here in Limpopo, Dr. Popira Mathuba. She was here yesterday. We did manage to engage with her, and we'll just continue with the continuation from here. MEC, thank you very much for joining us here on SABC. Yesterday, we were at Groblersdal Hospital. You mentioned the issue of, lack of capacity, and also the issue of doing this post-mortem so that the families can continue with the burial. How far are we in terms of the post-mortem, and the number of people who are still in hospital at this moment? How many are they?
I think afternoon to all your viewers out there. What we can indicate to you is that the challenge is not necessarily the capacity. The challenge is the current workload, the rate at which we are experiencing this trauma, mainly as a result of road accident, gunshots, stab wounds, because all of them require us to do postmortem. We also raise the challenge of our postmortem storage capacity in terms of the forensic, because we have got quite a number of unclaimed and bodies that we can't identify, which we are still working with the municipality to try to go for Papa's funeral. As we did reassure the families yesterday, we were here up until very late. We have not slept, but we can say, painful as it is, the situation, the team that we work with from Department of Health, we are proud because we brought in forensic pathologists from even other districts. We've been able to, by the time we went to sleep, probably early hours of this morning, we had done with all the postmortems. So all the 16 bodies are ready to can be collected by the families. We did work throughout because, as we have indicated, our challenges yesterday of storage, it forced us to say this is a disaster, we can't work as normal. I indicated the head of forensic himself, while he was attending a conference, he's going to cut it short in Pretoria and come down, because he knows when duty calls, he has to be here. So Dr. Mama Shela himself and his team, they've been able to assist us. Now, in terms of those who have been the survivors, as we can still indicate that the number is still 11. One has been discharged already. We have one who is admitted in Philadelphia Hospital. I've checked this morning. We did all our x-rays and investigation. She suffered soft tissue injuries, so she's ready for discharge. The other ones who had multiple fractures, unfortunately, they can't be managed at this particular level of this hospital. They've been transferred out. I've checked this morning in terms of their progress. All of them are stable. They are waiting for orthopedic surgeons to operate on them, and probably we are hoping that they will recover, and we continue to wish them speedy recovery. As the people of Limpopo, you will remember when I said yesterday, the Premier has indicated that we need to go and make sure that all of them receive the best healthcare system that they could, so that the survivors continue to recover and improve in the conditions that they are in.
No, thank you very much, MEC. That is the MEC of Health in the province, Dr. Popira Mathuba. One of the important issues she highlighted is that all the post-mortem results are in, all the post-mortem have been done, and the families can now hopefully start with collecting, the remains of their loved ones, so that they can start with the burial. Quite a sober mood here at Griselda, one has to say. One cannot stop but help feel for these families, losing someone in that tragic accident, especially children. Surely this is a very tragic incident. At the moment, Griselda, we managed to speak to some of the families who were talking about the arrangement of mass funerals. This is something which is likely to happen and will continue to come here in the Mortem area, so that we can continue and cover, the funerals as they unfold here in the province. Griselda, now it's back to you in studio.
Terrible situation there. Thank you very much indeed.